Yo, what's up? Opening line for a Friday. Still got Benny on the north side of town. Next time I see him, he'll be on the south side of town. That'd be a good thing right there. Got some preseason football last night. Let's get ready to get into it and see if we can give you some winners for the night. What's going on, Benny?
Not too much, man. It was a pretty interesting night for some preseason football, too. I sat down to watch the Jet-Giant game, which was delayed by thunder and lightning at the beginning over there, so that was never okay. And I'm kind of glad that I didn't bet any over-unders yesterday because we talked about how a lot of these games usually come in under. And yesterday, that was not the case. I think there were only 2 games that came in under, and everything else was over, and a lot of them were over by big margins.
Yeah, you are correct, Benny, because I was on some of those unders yesterday. And it was funny how the day the evening kind of started. I had to get some stuff done and do a whole bunch of stuff like that. So when we sat down, me and my brother-in-law was like, fuck it, let's pull the grill out. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We get the grill out, get the grill rolling, whatever. So put the games on, and I told him what my bets were. I had the under in the Jets-Giants.
Right.
And I had the under in the Colts-Bills. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So walking to the store, get some beers. I come back. He's like, the game was in rain delay. I'm like, rain delay? It's not even raining here.
Mm-hmm.
And I look up, and I'm like, oh, wow. That rain's going to be coming this way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I said the same thing to my wife. It was funny. I was like, they put the game on pause because of thunder and lightning. And she's like, oh, I didn't even know it was raining out. And then, 2 seconds later, a crack of a thunderbolt. And she's like, oh, okay, I get it now. I was like, yeah.
So we saw it from deep, saw the rain come in, whatever. So after the hour delay, the brother-in-law looks at me and goes, this is probably good for the under. And I'm thinking, yeah, the same thing. You know what I'm saying? This is good for the under. You know what I mean? And then, Benny, I look at Colts-Bills. After the end of the first quarter, it's 0-0. And I'm like, you know what?
Looking good tonight, yeah.
Yeah, off to a good start so far. You know what I'm saying? We got the heavens opened up in East Rutherford, and we got the Buffalo Bills and Indianapolis Colts not scoring no points. Well, let's start with Daniel Jones, Benny. The good people at the DraftKings Sportsbook made a fortune yesterday because they rope-a-doped us with that prop bet.
The thing that really sucks is he only played 1 series.
I know, right?
But I got to say, he looked pretty good, man. I mean, he went 5 for 5 on that drive and ended with a touchdown. You can't really ask for much more.
He was sharp. He looked good in the pocket, delivered the throws. You know what I'm saying? He was actually what was needed to be done to him. So shout out to Daniel Jones for not being a meme this morning. You know what I'm saying? Because it could have, if it would have went bad for Daniel Jones, it would have went real bad. What do you think of Sam Darnold's performance yesterday in the drive that he was in?
Yeah, he moved them down the field. That's what you want to see. So I was pretty happy with it. I had no problem with it. Here's the other thing I want to say about Daniel Jones, though, is it's not like Daniel Jones is a bad quarterback. That's never been what people are saying. The thing that people were saying to the Giants is, why do you give Eli a $20 million extension and then go grab this guy at number 6, a guy that anybody watching the draft would have told you could have gotten at 14 or 15, meaning you could have traded down and still wound up with Daniel Jones. So it's not like people were saying Daniel Jones sucks and he's not going to be a good quarterback. The kid does actually project out pretty well. He's a first-round draft pick. Number 6 overall might have been a little high for him, but he was always the first-round talent. So it's not like the guy sucks, and, I do hope for his sake that he's pretty good. It just didn't make sense to anybody watching why the Giants would do what they did with giving Eli the extension and then bringing in Daniel Jones. But I will say this, though, Corey. After watching him play yesterday, there is no doubt in my mind that Eli Manning is not finishing the season as the Giants.
100% correct. Eli Manning is on his last legs. You're right with that, Brady. That was going to be my takeaway also. So a little bit of life out of the Giants wide receiver group of misfits, you know what I'm saying? And on the Jets side, you know what I mean? Basically the same thing. You kind of saw what you figured you were going to see. Now, after the lightning and the game gets back started, all of a sudden both teams start marching up and down the field. And I'm like, man, this game's going to go over. It almost went over by halftime. But it goes over by an interception, return from a touchdown from a kid that grew up right up the street from where I'm at right now.
Oh, yeah?
It was almost like he was looking at me while he was like, I got your money. You know what I'm saying? And by the way, the Colts and the Bills, the fourth quarter, Benny, the skies opened up. 20 points scored in the fourth quarter, and the over comes in.
Yep. Like I said, this preseason is fun, and you should throw a couple bucks on it because it's nice to have football back here. But yeah, this isn't the time. This is not the time. This is not where we have the huge advantage. This is not the time to be going like all in with the bankroll here on this stuff. So.
No, it's tough to build your bankroll this time of year. Like I said, this is for fun. Games on TV, whatever situation. The way I look at it after last night, Benny, was it really is no reason to bet. Just like tonight, the Cowboys are plus 170. Put $20 on the Cowboys. Have a good time watching the game. That's how I'm looking at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I did last night. I said I was going to make a bet on the Jets. I had one of my buddies over here. We were watching the game. You know, we bet $20 each. He's a Giants fan. I'm a Jet fan. We bet $20 with each other on it. I lost $20. All right, big deal. You know, like that's to me, that's what preseason is. Like I said, I will say this though: preseason DFS wasn't bad, and it wasn't bad only because I was pretty heavily on some of the New England Patriots guys, including Jacoby Myers, who had the 2 touchdowns yesterday, which if you had him, you pretty much were able to cash as long as the rest of your team didn't suck.
Yeah, Myers has been an interesting name this preseason, and Myers comes out there yesterday and gets it done, as well as the Patriots offense. You know, I consider myself the quarterback whisperer. You know what I'm saying, Benny?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been telling people, where does the run start at? The run starts with it went from Dak Prescott to Deshaun Watson to Lamar Jackson. And last year, I was saying Jarrett Stidham is the best quarterback in this bunch. And nobody was paying attention. And he looked real good last night, too.
Yeah. There's, again, it's the preseason, so you don't want to take – you don't want to overreact to too much stuff. But, these are guys that it's nice to know, God forbid somebody on your team gets hurt, especially if it's your favorite team. It's nice to know that there's some depth there, that some of the guys that are waiting for a chance actually have a chance to step in and be productive, if not, better. So, the rich kind of getting richer over there. It is what it is.
Big news from yesterday, Benny. The Duke Johnson traded to the Houston Texans. I want to hop in right now and break that down and get your thoughts on it. What do you think about the Duke Johnson move to the Texans?
I think it's a great move for the Texans. They basically gave up it's probably going to wind up being a 3rd-round pick because it was a 4th-round pick conditional on a number of games he plays this year. So if he plays, I think it's over 10 games, it winds up being a 3rd-round pick that goes along in that draft. But from the Texans' point of view, I mean, listen, they got rid of Foreman, so we knew that there was some kind of a hole there that needed to be filled. I said last week, like drafting Lamar Miller is just not something I want to do in fantasy because there's no upside there. Duke Johnson coming in, though, I actually think Duke Johnson has more upside than Lamar Miller does.
I agree 100%, Benny.
I mean, he's a very good pass catcher. That's always been something that he's good at. And people act like Duke Johnson can't run the ball. It's not that he can't run the ball. It's that they never gave him a chance to in Cleveland. That wasn't his role. I think he might even wind up getting some carries here in Houston. For me, Duke Johnson is now at the top of the list. Like I move him ahead of like.
Before we get into before we get there, Benny.
Go ahead.
Let me run through with it. I want to run through it, and I kind of want to see where you're at, and I'll tell you about where you're at.
Okay.
Duke Johnson or Austin Eckler?
I'm still gonna say Austin Eckler for now because of Melvin Gordon being out. But if Melvin Gordon came back, Duke Johnson would be way ahead of Austin Eckler for me.
Duke Johnson or Miles Sanders?
Duke Johnson. I'm not the biggest Miles Sanders guy, though. So, there are a lot of people who like him a lot more than me. My problem with him is not talent. It's opportunity. I don't know if he's going to get it until maybe later on in the year, which is the way you kind of have to look at it if you draft him.
All right. Right quick. Let me go backwards right quick just to make sure we're on the same page. Duke Johnson or Naheem Hines?
Duke Johnson.
Figured that. All right. Jerick McKinnon hurt again.
Yes.
Jerick McKinnon is probably going to miss a couple of weeks of the season. Tevin Coleman's stock should be going up. So I obviously Duke Johnson over Jerick McKinnon. Duke Johnson or Royce Freeman?
Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson or Darrell Henderson?
Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson or Jordan Howard?
Still Duke Johnson. For the same reason as Miles Sanders is I'm worried that those two guys split stuff.
Duke Johnson or Lat Murray?
That one's kind of tough.
It is.
That one's kind of tough because Lat Murray, the news out of New Orleans is that Lat Murray, they basically said we like Kamara's volume, which is one of the worst things I've heard because I was expecting Kamara to get a volume bump without Mark Ingram. They're almost making it sound like they're just plugging Lat Murray in for Mark Ingram.
Yep, and Lat Murray is a very good value this year.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, but let's leave that one. Let's leave that one right now.
Right.
Duke Johnson or Rashard Penny.
Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson or Lamar Miller.
Duke Johnson. Like I said, I like Duke Johnson more than Lamar Miller. I think he can do more things.
Duke Johnson or Tevin Coleman.
Tevin Coleman.
Duke Johnson or David Montgomery. Who did score last night?
It's tough. That's a tough one. But again, if I'm sticking with what I was saying, I like David Montgomery a little bit more than I like Tariq Cohen.
Okay.
I think I like Duke Johnson now more than I like Tariq Cohen.
Okay. Do you like Duke Johnson more than you like Chris Carson?
No. I would take Carson before Duke Johnson.
You like Duke Johnson or Kenyon Drake?
I'd probably still take Kenyon Drake, but I have been trying to avoid Kenyon Drake because the Miami Dolphins, even without Gase, still feel like they're trying to avoid Kenyon Drake. So,
all right. Duke Johnson or James White?
James White. James White is what Duke Johnson's ceiling is.
No doubt. Duke Johnson or Phil Lindsay?
With the addition of Theo Riddick, I'm not as high on Lindsay as I was, but I'd probably still take Lindsay over Duke Johnson.
Duke Johnson or Mark Ingram?
Ingram.
Duke Johnson or Sony Michel?
Not big on Sony this year, but I would probably take him over Duke Johnson still.
Duke Johnson or Josh Jacobs?
Let me ask you a question because I was worried about this last night. The kid Harris, the running back from New England, didn't even play last night.
Interesting. I noticed that also.
The reason why I said, and I shouldn't say worried, that I probably said that the wrong way. The fact that he didn't play last night makes me believe that he's going to be a bigger part of this New England offense than I think we're giving him credit for.
They might have him on bubble wrap. If that's might not be a good thing for Sony Michel. That's what I'm saying. It's interesting. I think you have to draft the Patriots backfield as a trio, if you want to really truly get the best value from that.
Yeah, and that sucks because they're all going around like pick fit, like they're all in the same range.
Area. So you have to really take like round by round by round. You know what I mean?
You would have to go probably 5, 6, 7. Your 5, 6, 7 pick would have to be all three.
Yeah, exactly. Unless you do it in an auction, then you can break it up a little bit and maybe get some value out of it that way. But Duke or Josh Jacobs?
Jacobs.
So going by this, I would guess you have Duke Johnson somewhere between RB23 and RB26.
Yes. I was going to say around 25 is where I started seeing names that I was like, I'd really have to dig into that a little more.
That's a massive jump up the board for Duke Johnson, but Duke Johnson's always been incredibly talented, and now we feel like he's going to get an opportunity.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, wasn't a couple weeks ago when Melvin Gordon announced the trade, the team that we were like, who really needs a running back and really needs to make a move for running back? It was the Texans. Well, they made the move for running back, and I mean, neither one of us are that high on Lamar Miller, and rightfully so with the production Lamar Miller's had as a lead back the last couple of years in Houston. There, Duke Johnson could step right in and take over that entire backfield. Like that could be Duke Johnson's backfield.
All right. He has, in the latest Best Ball 10, he was selected. This is his earliest time being selected, was pick 77.
I think he's going to move a little bit ahead of that.
Yeah, I would agree that by Monday, once we get through this weekend's drafts, you definitely see some more action and traction on Duke Johnson. What I would say people to draft in this weekend, Benny, is let's not go crazy on Duke Johnson.
Right.
In that 23 to 26 range, probably somewhere in between rounds 5 through 7 would be correct. Would you say?
Yeah,
maybe 6 through 8.
I'm looking at Lamar Miller's ADP, at least on the play draft ones that I've been doing, has been around 75.
Okay.
And like I said, I like him. I like Duke Johnson more than Lamar Miller as the running back there. He's the guy I'd rather have coming out of that Houston backfield. So to me, he should be ahead of 75 at a minimum.
No doubt. Also with the Texans last night, Kiki Kuti been diagnosed with what they're saying is not a major ankle injury, but he did have a cart ride. Man, these secondary pieces in the Texans passing game, Benny, they have to stay healthy if you want to get the full value out of these guys.
Without a doubt. I mean, I've been high on Kiki Kuti. I got a lot of exposure to him. He's on like 30 or 40% of my best ball teams right now at the moment. So that would have been a big injury for me. They said it's minor. They said he's going to be back, but it does kind of highlight one of the problems with him is that, he's brittle. I mean, last year he only played in about 6 to 16 games. So This is a new problem for him, even though he's young.
What do you think about Ty Montgomery on the Jets?
I don't see how there's a huge role for him.
Okay.
That's my biggest problem. Put it this way. If Le'Veon Bell gets hurt, he's probably the passing down back. But other than that, I don't see how they carve out a big role for him during the season. There's only so many touches to go around. And, to me, he's on the outside looking in.
Pittsburgh, did you go mute, Benny?
Yeah, I was going mute. I had to call for a question.
I thought I muted you by accident. I was about to say my bad. Because I was moving the mouse. I lost my train of thought.
You said something about Pittsburgh, and then
Pittsburgh, exactly. Deontay Johnson, rookie wide receiver, ahead of James Washington on the depth chart.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, at the beginning of the year, we were thinking James Washington was going to be the wide receiver too. Early in camp, though, it started coming out that Dante Moncrief was ahead of him on the depth chart, which is good because I've been drafting a little bit of Dante Moncrief. You get him around ADP like 110 or so. He's like the last guy in that range with like Kiki Kuti and Geronimo Allison and Larry Fitzgerald. Like, you wind up getting those guys like round 9, round 10, right around there. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. I think that's an offense that can support multiple pass catchers because we've seen that in the past, right?
Mm-hmm.
You figure Juju is still going to get, the same targets that he got. He's going to get his 100-plus targets there. If Dante Moncrief steps into the 2 role, he could be a guy that's going underdrafted pretty badly this year.
No doubt. He can be a big piece.
Yeah.
That you get for next to nothing.
Yeah, I mean, again, 110th pick, you're talking 10th, 11th round for a guy like that. And, he might wind up with 90 to 110 targets this year, which should give him somewhere around like 60, 70 catches, which is what a lot of the guys that are getting drafted 2, 3, 4 rounds ahead of him are expected for.
No doubt. So that's a major development right there. Keep an eye on that situation. It looks like it's starting to shake out in Pittsburgh. Also, our guy is having a good camp too. Deebo Samuel is doing a good job out there. He's caught the eye of Kyle Shanahan. Me and you both have been on Deebo as the 49ers number 1 wide receiver.
So Deebo Samuel's going pick like 180 ADP, whereas Dante Pettis is going like pick 90. I will gladly take Deebo Samuels at his ADP over Dante Pettis at his ADP.
Benny, did you get to catch any of the number 1 overall draft pick, Kyler Murray, last night?
Yeah, I caught a little bit of it. I saw him scrambling outside of the rush right there and throwing on the run. So, he looked pretty good. I mean, that's what you were expecting from him. Again, I don't want to put too much into it because I don't think they showed that entire offense yesterday. I think that offense is going to be faster paced and even more dynamic when the season starts. Murray is going to make some mistakes, make no doubt about that. He's going to have a bunch of fumbles. He's going to throw a lot of interceptions. He's a rookie playing in the NFL, but he's also going to use his legs to get outside of the pocket, and he's going to pick up rushing yards. And with the tempo that they're playing at, he's also going to rack up a lot of yards and a lot of completions. So there's going to be some bad, but there's going to be a lot of good too. And I think that he's a pretty decent pick there.
I think I'm off the kid, to be honest with you. I'm just like Jeff. I think the offensive line is going to make the whole thing fall apart. But I do think you'll see some flashes at times. We talked about Daniel Jones. He did well. Dwayne Haskins, on the other hand, threw 2 picks last night.
I did not watch any of the Washington games, so I don't have much to say about that. But, again, it's a rookie quarterback in the NFL getting his first action at that kind of game speed. Bad things are going to happen. These guys take a little while for them to kind of get into it.
A Chicago Bears kicker hit a 43-yard field goal last night. That's good for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, kickers, I don't really care. Most of the fantasy leagues I play in now have done the smart thing and gotten rid of kickers. So I have done zero kicker research so far this year and will continue to.
Lions wide receiver Jermaine Kearse breaks his leg, injures his ankle. Doesn't look good for Jermaine Kearse, but the Lions, fortunately, I don't want to say it's a position of strength of theirs. They do have Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay, and I forgot who they brought in this tight end.
Danny Amendola, baby. Danny Amendola, he's a guy I talked about yesterday as a late round pick. That's going to be a pretty good PPR option and is going to get you. I mean, basically, Danny Amendola is stepping into the Golden Tate role. Now again, I don't know if he's going to get the same kind of targets that Golden Tate.
He's not going to play as many snaps because he'll be hurt. But while he's out there,
but, all right, so look, for DFS then, at the very least, you got to think he's one of those guys when he's not hurt and he's healthy and he's out there playing. And the other thing, the other thing too with them is like Danny Amendola in season-long drafts is basically free right now.
Oh, son, because everybody's like, for what? But no, I agree. You can get him.
In the last week or two, though, Corey, I keep seeing him getting drafted as one of the last 2-round picks.
Okay.
Like this was a guy who 2 weeks ago nobody was even talking about, nobody was drafting, and now all of a sudden he's like a back end of the draft kind of pick. There's like 3 or 4 guys like that. He's one of them. Cole Beasley is another guy who's starting to get a little bit of that back end of the draft stuff. The kid Keyshawn Johnson, I think it is the name, but not like spelled the same way, from Arizona.
I actually he's no relation to Keyshawn Johnson. He wears number 19 just like Keyshawn Johnson.
Okay.
Relation to Keyshawn Johnson.
He spells the name differently too, though. Isn't it like it's like Keyshawn almost?
Differently. And he actually met Keyshawn Johnson, and Keyshawn Johnson just asked him, was like, what's the deal with the name? And he was like, just my pops. You know what I'm saying? It just so happens that I played football and wear number 19, but there's no correlation between the two players whatsoever.
Yeah. Like I said, they spell it differently and everything, so it's not the same. But those are the guys that are kind of making a little bit of a splash and whose names are, getting mentioned.
Add J.J. Arcega-Whiteside to that list, too, the Eagles rookie wide receiver.
Okay. What did he have a good game yesterday, too? Or?
I'm not sure I think he had he may have 7 targets yesterday, but he's that they've liked, and he's flashed some in practice. So I would keep an eye on him, too, in that same range that you're talking about, especially if you're drafting this weekend. Make a little cheat sheet and put some of those deeper names down there.
Oh, wait, hold on. I'm adding a name to the list, too, and I forget the guy's name, but I've been reading about him a lot. Who's the guy on the Redskins? McLaren?
Let me look up their box score.
There's a guy in the Redskins who they're talking about. He's honestly been looking like the best wide receiver in the entire camp so far here. I don't think he had a very good game yesterday, and I think it was another one of those situations where, like the Harris situation, where I'm like, if this guy's having such a good camp and they're not playing him in the first preseason game, that means there's a chance this guy's going to have a pretty big role during the season. I think it's like Terry McLaurin or McLaren. Let me go look it up real quick because I wanted to mention it because he's the other name that kept popping up, and I started digging a little deeper into him, and I think he might actually end up with a role this year. And not just like, he's going to play like 20 snaps a game. Like, he might have a significant role with the Washington Redskins this year.
As far as the targets went yesterday, Darvin Kidsey got 7. T.J. Rahming got 4. Kelvin Harmon with 3. Matt Flanagan with 3. Cam Sims with 2. Sam Pirine, Brian Quick, Brian Marshall with 2. Then there's a couple cats sprinkled in there with 1. I don't think any of those are the name you're looking for.
Terry McLaurin is the guy's name.
Terry McLaurin, okay.
Yeah, and here's the reason. And again, the fact that he didn't get the targets yesterday and wasn't on the field is actually the reason why I wanted to make sure I mentioned him today. Because it looks like this kid is going to wind up – he was their 3rd-round pick that last year. It looks like he's going to wind up with a pretty big role in this offense this year to the point where he might even wind up being a starter for him. So – that's another one of those guys when you start getting into round 17, 18, 19, you're looking for that wide receiver 7 on your team or so. These are guys that you could take that could wind up having a big impact for you.
The Cleveland Browns came out yesterday. They brought their full unit out, just about their full unit for the first drive. They put Baker Mayfield in the 2-minute offense, and it was magical, Benny. This kid, Dontrell Hilliard, he needs to be drafted in all 12-team leagues because he's going to be a check-down option for Baker Mayfield. Obviously, Nick Chubb will get most of the work, but this kid, Dontrell Hilliard, and he can play too, Benny. I think he's going to be a guy that in all 12-team leagues, 16 rounds or more, he should be one of the last picks of your draft, and definitely an early season handcuff to Chubb.
Okay, so I mean, he has the double upside of being a guy who could get some of the passing down work, and
he might have some flex appeal.
Yeah, and also having the and also having the chance to be the backup. Remember, though, I mean, Kareem Hunt is coming back for them in Week 9, and God forbid something does happen to Chubb. Hilliard will be the shiny new toy for a couple weeks, but when Kareem Hunt comes back, there's a good chance it's going to go back to him being more of a third down back wide receiver kind of guy, and Kareem Hunt taking most of the rushing work.
Hilliard had 6 targets last night. Antonio Callaway had 7. So there you go as far as that game. But the first-team offense that came out there went right down the field. Benny did their job. They looked good. I think you're going to be paying a higher price because of this performance. If you're drafting this weekend, you're going to be paying a higher price for for Baker Mayfield, who's coming in around the 4th or 5th quarterback off the board right now, Benny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there's been kind of a big gap to the 4th and 5th quarterbacks in a lot of drafts. Like you're seeing Mahomes go real early, and then there's a little bit of a gap before people are taking Watson and Luck. And then there's been like a little bit of a gap before the guys like Mayfield and Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers wind up coming off the board. So
yeah, exactly. So you're 100% correct. So just don't go crazy on getting your quarterback. But I do like what I see from Baker. Trace McSorley did most of the work for the Baltimore Ravens last night. As far as rushing, they have – who is Jalen Hill?
My guess is just another back that's going to wind up, 4th guy or wind up on somebody's practice squad.
What happened to Justice Hill? Is this a mistake?
I don't know. I didn't watch that game last night, so I don't know. They may not have played him. They may have sat him.
Again, that's good too. I feel like this might be a mistake, though. I feel like they may have made the put Justice Hill and put Jalen Hill instead. No, they got Justice Hill. There's 2 players. It's Justice Hill. Justice Hill had 2 receptions for the Ravens last night. Did not carry the football. Jalen Hill carried it 9 times for them. But like you said, obviously nothing much to see here. The big dogs will be in there a little bit later on this season. But we did see a touchdown catch by Willie Snead. Willie Snead touchdown catch thrown to him by Lamar Jackson. Snead's been a guy that hasn't had any fantasy relevance in a while now. I don't think no Raven wide receiver will. I think there's going to be a sum of the goods, and the player to own is Jackson. Yeah.
Willie Snead is a guy that should be mentioned in those, last couple round picks along with his
I've won championships with Willie Snead before.
Well, the thing about Willie Snead, again, if you're asking me to take Willie Snead in the 9th, 10th round, I think you're crazy. But, when you start getting down to around 18 to 20, you're looking for guys that can have maybe 1 or 2 good weeks for you, throughout the course of a fantasy season. If I can get a guy in the 19th or 20th round that can give me 2 or 3 weeks where he's in my best ball lineup, then that's a good pick. That's a guy that's worthy of being a pick. Willie Snead is a guy who could catch a touchdown and have 5 or 6 catches for 50 or 60 yards, which, again, 5 catches, 50 yards, touchdown, 15, 16 fantasy points. That's a guy that probably winds up on a best ball team,
I can agree with you on that. Devin Singletary carried the ball 9 times for the Bills last night, so he got his work in. Josh Allen also, played a little. I wonder who this is calling me for this crazy number.
So the Singletary, he had a nice run or 2 in there. He looks pretty good.
Yep.
I was surprised that they held on to LaShawn McCoy, right? Because I felt like LaShawn McCoy might have still had some value as a veteran running back on some team, and he may still have some value for some team as a veteran running back before the trade deadline comes along. And you already have the kid who's probably going to be your future in this kid Singletary. So to me, it doesn't make sense that they haven't let this kid kind of go out there and take over this job. At some point this year, I think it is his job.
I would agree with you on that one, Benny. All right, so now when you look ahead and turn the page and flip forward to tonight, let's start with Tampa and Pittsburgh. Right off the rip, Benny, you know what you want to see there. You got the Buccaneers and the Steelers. The Buccaneers, you want to see some fashion of a run game finally. And the Steelers, we're going to be looking at how those wide receivers line up.
Yeah, we want to see, who it looks like it's going to be the wide receivers and where they're going to be putting guys. Is Juju still going to be in the slot? Are they going to move him to the outside? My guess is they probably move him around all year and try to find good spots and good matchups for him. I expect to see Dante Moncrief as the number 2 if they let the starters go at the beginning of the game and everybody else kind of going behind them. I don't think we're going to see a lot of James Conner tonight. I don't think we're going to see a ton, maybe a little bit of Jalen Samuels.
I would agree. Yep.
We'll probably see a lot of Benny Snell, though.
No doubt.
Benny Snell is the young guy that they brought in. So if you're playing DFS, Benny Snell's somebody that I'll probably have some exposure to for that Pittsburgh Steelers, running game tonight.
Tampa Bay, Rojo.
I don't know how they're going to break it down. I don't know how they're going to break it down, but I'd like to see. I mean, we know that Peyton Barber is probably going to be the starter. So you may wind up getting a little more Ronald Jones tonight, but I think both of these guys are going to have a role during the year. So for tonight, I don't think we're going to see much out of either one of them, maybe a series or 2 each. But I doubt either one of these guys plays after the first quarter.
Also tonight, you got the Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. Nothing really much to see here. I think everybody's pretty locked in, and you know where things are going with both these offenses.
Yeah, I mean, I love the starters on both of these teams. And the thing is, they have good skill position players where there's really no questions and no battles, right? Like, Dalvin Cook's the running back. It's going to be Cousins and it's going to be Rudolph and it's going to be, Thielen and Diggs on the outside. So everything's kind of set for them. Same thing pretty much on the New Orleans side. I mean, Mike Thomas, you're going to have a little bit of Lat Murray, a little bit of Kamara. You're going to have Drew Brees there. Maybe some of the other receivers for New Orleans, would be something to look at to see who they wind up lining up on the other side. Do we get what's his name? Traquan Hill, is he going to be there?
Oh yeah, Traquan
Smith, whatever it is. Yeah, he had some big games last year with guys hurt. Is he going to step into a bigger role? He's somebody that I feel like people are drafting, but I've kind of stayed away from him, Corey. I think people are overdrafting this guy this year.
As far as betting these games tonight, the Buccaneers money line is plus 102 on the road. The Vikings are on the road at plus 114, rematch of the Minneapolis Miracle. Both games, the Buccaneers and the Steelers coming at 37. The Vikings and the Saints coming at 37.5. I really have no lean either way, Benny. If anything, like I said, I'll put something on the Vikings at plus 114.
If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to go. After watching last night's games, I think I'm going to lean towards the overs. So I'm going to lean towards the overs and see if last night was just a blip on the radar or if there's a reason we're getting more points scored.
Interesting, Denny. They shift all the juice to the overs. So like tonight on FanDuel, that Buccaneers Steelers 37 is minus 120. We lost you. Was it me or did we lose you? You mute.
Oh, sorry about that. I put it on mute. I had to yell at my kids to make a noise. Yeah, I mean, that kind of screws everything over. I think they took a bath last night because I think a lot of people were, a lot of people bet some of those overs, and like I said, a lot of those overs hit. Even though it's normally the unders that hit in a lot of these preseason games, last night was the other way around, and the money was actually on the overs last night. So I think they took a bath, which is why they did it.
If you parlay tonight's overs, you get them at plus 238. As the Vikings and Saints over is sitting at minus 118.
Interesting. 118 and the other one's minus 120?
Mm-hmm. You get them at 238.
I mean, again, they lowered the numbers, right? Well, what's the number? Is that 37?
37 and 37.5.
See, that's funny because like yesterday, most of them were 33, 34. So not only did they raise the number up, but they're also charging you juice on it. So probably not the time to go ahead and bet all the overs.
No, it's actually a good night to hop on the unders
or
to stay away from the totals altogether. You know what I'm saying?
That's probably what I'm going to do. I'm probably just going to stay away from it now.
What do we got baseball-wise? You're not going to stay away from that, are you?
No, definitely not. And you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to give you guys a freebie out there today because basically the two teams that stood out for me also happen to be the same two teams that MLB Motto and MLB Dream have on their on their picks for today. One of them is the Yankees right now. Yankees are at minus 145 is what I got them at this morning.
Oh my gosh, shucks, they already at 162 now.
Are they really?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm glad I put that bet in early. They were minus 145 against Toronto. I thought that was a good bet. The other one was the Phillies. The Phillies I got at 108 this morning.
Okay. I got there at 114 now. They have a late game versus the San Francisco Giants.
Yes, Smiley, Drew Smiley against Tyler Beede is the matchup. So I like the Phillies at minus 108. I was able to get them. So I'm pretty happy right now because I had the Yankees game had already moved about 15 cents in my favor, and the Phillies game you said was at 114. So I already got a nickel movement in my favor there. So, glad I got in early on those two this morning. But that's the thing with baseball. Like, you have to get in early in the day. Like, my update on the Elite MLB sports betting page probably came out about, I don't know, maybe 8:30 this morning because it was before we came on the air. If you can hop on some of these totals that look off early in the morning, as the line starts moving, you end up with a lot of what we call closing line value, which really means that you were on the right side and got the right price on it.
No doubt. It's always good to be on the right side of the money. Saw that a lot during the college basketball season and hope to see that some more during the NFL season. All right, for my main man. Oh, big piece of chicken. I got to give it to Daniel Jones for actually coming out yesterday and not making a joke of himself.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm gonna give it to Jacoby Myers, the wide receiver from the New England Patriots, catching not one but two touchdowns yesterday and being a main reason why I had a profit on my DFS preseason NFL lineups yesterday.
All right, for my main man Benny, is Corey Parson, the fantasy executive. Shout out to all the Goonies. See y'all coming back. Enjoy the weekend. We get ready to rock and roll next weekend. We out.